Happy Hour at the Green Man by Kate Wing, read by Lucy Simons. In the middle of the city, amongst the grey cliffs of concrete and tinted glass, is a small pub. The Green Man is not an ancient tavern full of beams and history, nor is it a modern bar decked with chrome, expensive niche brands and robotic bar staff. It is simply a squat, nondescript building nestled between slabs of accountancy firms, stockbrokers, public relations companies, and advertising agencies. Monorails fly overhead, driverless taxi pods glide past, and it's seldom that any of the passengers ever notice this unremarkable building. The only feature of any interest is the weathered signboard depicting a face whose beard and hair are a mass of tangled green foliage. It is not a particularly popular pub. It doesn't have its own microbrewery, doesn't offer live sports coverage, virtual reality gaming, or karaoke duets with holograms of famous pop stars. It has no comfortable booths for discreet office romances or touchscreen units for instant dating. A few weary suits drift in at lunchtime or for an hour or two after work to buy a drink from a civil but blank-faced barman whose stilted use of English discourages those looking for conversation or friendly banter. The bar is never busy. And generally, by 8 p.m. the place is empty, as the last commuters drift away to find the transport that will take them home to the suburbs, and the city becomes a dead zone of service companies staffed only by gently humming computers and maintenance robots. This is why very few people ever discover that for 1 hour, from 10 p.m. every night, the Green Man becomes the portal to the ancient forest that was once at the centre of the city. Some scientists have now discovered that trees are able to communicate with each other via an underground network of fungal threads known as mycelium. The trees are believed to use this network to spread nutrients, to share information about threats, and even organise the chemical sabotage of unwelcome plants and pests. Scientists, however, don't really like to contemplate the nature of souls. It is not within their remit, and is usually left to the interpretation of religious leaders, who devote their time to constructing lists of do's and don'ts designed to encourage humans to act decently to each other, despite each other, or wage war on each other, depending on the inclinations of the leader in question. So the souls of trees remain a mystery, and the existence of this ghost forest and its secret portal is not something that can be easily explained. We know that long ago the forests spread across our land, and that bit by bit they were felled to make space for settlements and agriculture, and to provide materials for shipwrights, carpenters and coopers. Then more trees were sacrificed in the name of progress to create motorways, airports and urban sprawl. Tiny pockets of the ancient forest remained across the country, dotted between sprawling cities and massive automated factory farms, preserved and confined within state-appointed natural reserves. But in the middle of this city, it is the ghost of the ancient forest that survived centuries after the trees had been chopped down by our long-dead ancestors. Only 1 or 2 people a year ever enter the ghost forest. Somehow it is a beacon to those who are terminally sick of their drone-like existence in the city, those who have been told to clear their desks for the last time, and those who have no desire to return to the mundane drudgery of suburbia, or have no loved ones to make that drudgery tolerable. Some strange force will lead them to the Green Man. A moment's hesitation at the door, and then they step inside and find themselves in the dappled light of the forest, the trees rising high above them in a natural roof of green. The ghost forest spreads for many miles, and at its centre is a glade where the sunlight cascades in a fountain of fractured golden beams. Ancient legends tell us that each species of tree has its own dryad or protecting spirit. and after following the cool bracken-edged paths through the forests, it is here, in this glade, that the soul of the incomer will rise in the sunlight to find the tree which matches them and meld together for all time. So, if you ever wonder what happened to that person in your office who was made redundant and never heard from again, or the unreliable character who left work without notice, perhaps they popped into the Green Man for one last drink.
A Child of the Oasis by Ari Onovar. Read by Nora Ashrari. The man fell from the sky on a cloudy Paris morning. He was my love. I had kissed the dust of Juba from his lips 9 hours earlier. "First thing," he said, "I'll buy us a café au lait." "No," I said, "just a glass of cool, clean water." Surely we were too young, and our parents would have disapproved before the great heat. But our parents, our goats, and anything green were gone, burned away by an unforgiving sun. I had stolen our plan one sleepless night. My uncle on the other side of the thin wall whispered to his wife, "We're all going to die here. Asim, he was smart. He's probably in London or somewhere nice." "You want to hang from a flying airplane?" My auntie clucked her tongue. "I'll take my chances here, and so will you." We found our way to the airport, my love and I. That morning, he kissed my belly one last time, and we sprinted across the dusty tarmac toward the thundering monster. I went left and he went right. We each grabbed onto the hard, unfamiliar metal before we were lifted into the air and folded into the belly of the plane. That was 8 years ago, on this very day. I can still see it all so clearly. His white shirt fluttering as his sleeping body plunged toward our promised land. I could only cling to the landing gear, shivering, and whisper a prayer for my falling angel. In so many ways, Paris is everything I dreamed it would be. This child of the desert has become a woman of the oasis. And my own little girl, Sahar, is growing up near green parks with sparkling fountains, fed by desalinated water from the overflowing Mediterranean. In school, Sahar goes on field trips to the factory assembly lines run by bipedal robots, and to the Paris Zoo, where clones of white rhinos and Bengal tigers roam. Her latest assignment is experimenting with hydroponic growing techniques in the vertical gardens that rise above our neighborhood in the 49th arrondissement, providing much-needed shade. Today, she has brought home the results of one of her experiments: a plump tomato, a deep purple iris, and a stalk with 3 smiling lilies. How proud she is. While I remove the clutter from our small table, she cuts the delicate tomato. I close my eyes as I take the first bite because it helps me concentrate. I savor the sweet flavor as it bursts on my tongue. "Oh, Mother," Sahar says, shaking her head. "Try it," I retort. I spear a tomato wedge and aim my fork at her mouth like I did when she was a baby. "This is ridiculous," she protests. But she relents, and I fly the precious morsel between her bright teeth. She giggles, and I laugh and pull her to the floor. Our bellies shaking, we laugh until tears spill from our eyes. A commotion outside brings me to my feet. The familiar sirens blare as Sahar and I scramble to the window. 2 refugee patrol agents tackle a woman on the sidewalk below, her meager groceries scattering. She appears to be undocumented, and her lack of proper immigration nanochip has made the awful siren wail, alerting the authorities. She screams in a language I don't understand. I cover Sahar's eyes. "It's time to go," I say, pulling her from the window. The flowers hang out of Sahar's basket as we ride our electric bicycles beneath the grapevine-covered bikeways. After a while, the buildings become lower and the shade sparser. We pause to don our large hats and protective shirts. Following our annual route eastward, we spot the forest of mighty wind turbines in the distance, out beyond the city wall. I think again about that woman, how she will have to rejoin the vast caravans of migrants searching for water, for food, for an oasis. Sahar still doesn't know how lucky I was, how all the media attention and a crafty politician had saved me from deportation when the authorities found me at Charles de Gaulle Airport. We approach a hill and pedal to assist the bike battery. When she was younger, Sahar sat behind me on the bike rack while I pedaled on the hills. Each year on this special day, we ride to the remembrance wall, and Sahar places the flowers at the base of the granite wall, as close as possible to her father's name. Graveyards are a luxury that cities like Paris had to surrender long ago. As always, I will tell her stories of her father and our life before Paris, but I won't tell her the truth of how he died. Not yet. We are nearly to the remembrance wall when a man stumbles from an alley out onto the path in front of us, struggling under a burden.